Hey y'all, Melanie here from asmalllife.com, and I'm here today with my husband George.
Howdy.
And we're going to be talking about advice for renovating an Airstream, and I wanted him here for this video so he could help me expand on some of the more technical aspects that maybe I'm not able to explain so well. I know what we did, but I'm not 100% sure always, like what screws and nails and things like that.
Handyman stuff.
Yeah, handyman stuff. So today I'm going to give some more general advice for renovating an Airstream, since renovating each individual Airstream will be different. So you might not have problems with your hot water heater or your air conditioner or whatever. Those are problems that we did have. For more specifics on our certain issues or problems, you can go to my website, asmalllife.com, and I talked about a lot of them there. But we're going to today just give some overall general advice for renovating an Airstream. And what I'm going to do is talk about the bullet points, and then George is going to help me expand on those.
Sounds good.
Thanks. All right, first one. The first one that I wanted to talk about is making a budget and then overestimating, because there will always be unforeseen problems with your Airstream that you don't know about. Like we estimated that it was only going to take us $1,000 to fix up the Airstream, and it ended up being about $1,500. Which is actually still pretty reasonable, looking at other blogs and what other people have spent on them, which I kind of think is insane. But if you have the money, go for it. We didn't have the money. We had a budget of $1,000, and we did go over that. We spent about $1,500.
Yeah, we were able to keep it to just going over only the $500 by using a lot of stuff that we already had. And we'll get into that a little bit more in just a few minutes. But the budget, you really got to allow for things that you're not that's not even on your radar yet. So, because you're gonna run into problems. Same with anything. Working on a car, you might find when you're changing your tires that you need to check your brake pads, and then you got to put new brakes on. So, same type of thing. So, just always plan for a few extra dollars needing to be spent.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and it's just like those renovation shows that you watch on TV, right?
Oh,
and they always, like Chip and Joanna.
Hey, y'all!
Yeah, they always have to call you because they have some unforeseen problem and they have to spend money on it.
Yeah, it's just sucked because I had to call myself.
Yeah.
And that was not as fun.
Yeah. Phone in our bank.
Right?
Yeah. Okay. The second one I wanted to talk about was give yourself time to renovate, but also give yourself a deadline. So we gave ourselves only about 3 months to fix up the Airstream, and that was probably not enough time. And that was, I was going to work during that time, but George had off because it was the summer. And 3 months was really hard because we were also fixing it up outside in the outdoors, and it rained a lot that year. Remember, it rained so much?
Definitely.
And then it was super, super hot some days, and we still had to work.
Yeah.
So I would really give yourself also more time than you think you're going to need. But give yourself a deadline. If you never give yourself a deadline, then you're not going to finish a project.
Yeah, it's hard to get motivated to do something that you don't have to do. And it was one of the situations where we did have to get it done because we needed to be in it. We were, in my parents' house for a little while there as we were transitioning from our old warehouse condo into the Airstream. So it was one of those pressing things that we needed to get done in a short amount of time, but also get it done right. So that was just something I had to keep in mind, is getting it done quickly, but not cutting corners and having it be sort of shoddy and not comfortable in any way. So had to really make sure that I thought about everything I was doing while, like Melanie said, dealing with weather issues. It was hot, super hot, and rain, a lot of rain. So that you don't want to be working outside with power tools when it's raining. So just keep that in mind.
Right. Which brings me to the next one, number 3. If possible, don't renovate during the middle of summer or the dead of winter. If you have a place that is air conditioned and climate controlled, I would say by all means go for it. Renovate in there whenever time you want. But we did it in the middle of July, and it was like June, July, and August.
Yeah.
And it was super hot. We didn't have air conditioning yet.
I mean, even if I just had like a big barn shelter or something, I could have gotten a lot more done in a little bit less time. But, you know, just with a 31-foot Airstream, finding a barn shelter attached to like a 17-foot square tobacco barn in this area of North Carolina, unless there's somebody you know with a specified tractor shelter or something like that that will let you use some space, it's going to be hard to come by something that you can keep an Airstream that size under and working on through the rain and things like that. If you got a smaller one and there is a small carport or something like that, you might be able to cut a little bit of time and get it done quicker. But for us, with the size of the trailer and just the weather issues we were running into, it took that time.
Yeah. So if you're hearing some popping in the background, it's fireworks. It's the 4th of July. Happy Independence Day! But this is actually the only time that we could do this together because we're so busy. But it was something that I was able to help you with mostly on the weekends.
Oh, yeah.
And we also, which I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but we did enlist the help of other people.
Yeah.
Your parents helped us paint and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And your dad is really handy.
Yeah.
If you do have a handy friend and you're not that handy yourself, I would say, use them, buy them pizza or beer or
Yeah.
whatever you have to do to get that help. You can really you can figure things out better, I think, in a group with multiple people helping.
Yeah, sometimes, especially with my dad helping out, he had done a lot of plumbing work, just on the house I grew up in. As with any house, you're going to have issues with the Airstream as well. So he was able to teach me a lot of things as we were going through and fixing this, that, and the other, and trying to get things sort of sorted out so it was livable. So I learned a lot along the way just from him showing me this, that, and the other. But also I'd picked up a lot of that growing up as well. Because if we had a copper pipe or something, get a pinhole when I was growing up, I had to go under the house and help Daddy fix it. So I got to use a lot of that knowledge and transfer it to the Airstream, and also learn some other things as it went along. But yeah, working with a group of people or family is always a good idea to sort of help figure things out.
Mm-hmm. And I've kind of lost track of what number this is, like 5, 4 or 5. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
No.
But the next one I wanted to talk about a little bit is it's really helpful to have some inspiration going into it, but also list out maybe the things that you really are really important to you and things that you really need. Like we had to have a desk for sure, and that was because George works in here, so it was more important to us to have like a desk area than to even have a place to eat. Like a lot of people are really concerned that we don't have a kitchen, or we don't have
table.
We don't have a
Yeah.
Like a table for
Dining
eating,
area.
a dining area.
Yeah.
We eat in the living room. Occasionally we have breakfast in bed too. Just keeping it real.
The dog likes that.
Yeah, she really
because we tend to drop more that way.
But have that inspiration board to help you figure out what's really important to you and the way you want it to look. We did not really have that much inspiration going into it. We knew what we liked, but I think that it's just because we didn't really know. We didn't know that other people were living in Airstreams or anything like that. So I think it is good to have an inspiration board or check out Pinterest. My Pinterest has a lot of inspiration on it. But figure really out what you want, because especially with an Airstream, the space is so small that you really do have to have sort of a cohesive look.
Yeah, and don't. I mean, you see a lot of things like, "Ooh, I love subway tile." That's not necessarily gonna work too easily in a rounded structure like this, because I mean, just logistically, there might be ways to faux it, fake it, do some things like that. Hey, Bambi. She came to join us for a little while. Um, but and this is an excellent point right here. We didn't have Bambi when we started this, so things have changed a little bit since we got her. Things that we didn't plan for. Now we got the baby here with us. Say hi. So that sort of changed up our the way we live in here as well. But as I was saying, there are a lot of cool things out there that you see, but if it's not in your skill set or you don't think you'll be able to execute it, you might want to find another alternative way to create that look or that effect in your desired space. So don't get too far ahead of yourself. Just stay within your comfort zone for sure.
Right. I think that does bring up a good point, though, to not get too far ahead of yourself. Like, I started creating lists when we first started this, and when I did, I got so overwhelmed that I was, like, paralyzed. So I think you do want to take it really one step at a time and make sure that, you don't get ahead of yourself in certain things. You want to plan ahead, but you don't want to get so overwhelmed that you become paralyzed.
Or just keep your list super general. It can be daunting if you're like, paint trim in around tiny window between kitchen and living room. That's super tiny. You'll get to it. You'll get it done. But if you put that on the list right next to put wire nuts on wires connecting water heater to 12-volt system, I mean, you're just going to have an insanely long list that's just going to be like never ending. So keep it super general at first. Just sort of tackle the big things. What's surprisingly the quickest thing was, demo. I mean, you always see on the renovation shows, demo time is like they get it done. That's actually true. It really doesn't take long to rip stuff out of a place, and it's kind of fun. And you feel like you're getting a lot done right off. So that's a good momentum builder. But everything else tends to drag along a little bit. It's a lot of fine details, especially if you want it to look and feel nice and homey and like something that you created. That was one thing I really wanted to go for in this place, and feel like we pulled it off. But it took a while. It took those little details, and it even after we were living in here and had moved in, it continually there were little projects that had to be done, like the drawers and the shelves in the entertainment center area, the little desk on the bench seat. Those came later, and that really made it feel like home because I was incorporating the barn wood from the tobacco barn here on the property, that luckily caught a couple big oak trees instead of them landing on top of the trailer itself. So it was kind of a neat little thing to incorporate that into the house as well as we, continue to work on it.
Yeah. I think that's a good point, to not be afraid to change things up once you get in there.
Oh, yeah.
To better fit your lifestyle. Like, I really wanted open shelving, and once we got in here and put our stuff in here with the open shelving, it looked really messy. So that's when we decided that we needed the drawers built in the back with the barnwood, and I actually think that it looks better that way. It looks a lot neater and cleaner, and we're able to put stuff away that's not like super cute. You don't want all of your belongings out all the time.
Yeah, and I have a lot of drawings and things like that, so there's a lot of papers, and stacks of paper can look kind of junky. That's why you always see flat files in artist studios and things like that, because nobody wants to see just a bunch of papers laying around. So that definitely helped out, having the storage solution with the shelves like that, with the drawers, not shelves.
Yeah. So we've talked about this kind of a lot already, but just thinking outside the box and using materials that you already have to really cut down on your cost, right?
Yeah, definitely. The bed itself is made out of our old entertainment center from the
Yeah.
place we were in before this. Um, I had actually made that from reclaimed wood as well, and just some old 2x4s that I'd found around the farm, and painted real nice, and found just some old boards that I could use for shelves, and slid them in there, and it worked perfectly. And we even incorporated this cool old like locker thing into it. But when we moved into here, I was like, well, we don't need this huge entertainment system anymore, center. So I pieced it apart and used a lot of the 2x4s and things like that to create the bed frame.
So, we also use a lot of the stuff from our previous home,
Oh
right?
yeah,
Like the
of course.
pillows and just like soft stuff that
Hmm.
we use the mattress. So you don't
Hmm.
have to buy everything completely new, especially if you're going to be living in the Airstream full time or your RV full time.
Exactly. We used a big what actually helps tidy up the entertainment area where I have all my records and things like that is a big knee-high like soda box.
Hmm.
And that actually matched the barnwood perfectly tone wise, and you can just put so much like odds and ends in there that you don't really want to look at all the time and you don't need all the time. So they hide away in there perfectly. It fits in the space perfectly, and it's just a super clean, super easy way to keep things put away and out of
Hmm.
sight.
Yep. And the last thing that I wanted to talk about is, I feel like George is really handy, but I feel like I am resourceful. Like, not to brag on myself, but I do want to
Toot
brag on
toot.
myself. Yeah. I think you should be able to brag on yourself sometimes.
Mhm.
But I feel like if I don't know something, then I go look it up online. Google, YouTube is a great resource for finding out how to do really almost anything. Um, my website. But Airstream forums is a really good one as well if you're fixing up specifically an Airstream. But I feel like a lot of stuff is online. I know that not everything is online,
Yeah.
but a lot of stuff is, and it's a really good resource for you. A lot of it is free. So if you have some time, I think that's the biggest point is giving yourself enough time. And if you do
Yeah.
have that time, you can look it up and find it out and teach yourself and really be able to save some money and become more resourceful.
Yeah, and don't be scared to use your prior knowledge. If you're really good at knitting, incorporate that into your place. Make it feel like you. I had a lot of background in skateboarding, so building ramps and things like that is something I did since I was a kid, really, really small. So my dad taught me basic construction techniques, that way. And a lot of how I built ramps growing up is incorporated in the house. And it wouldn't be noticeable to really anybody except maybe somebody who had built ramps before. But just the way I use plywood and build the boxes and things, I've been doing that for years and years, just through skateboarding, and then also in art school building frames and things like that. So if you've got any type of prior knowledge of any basic construction techniques or anything like that, it all transfers, and really nobody's going to know that the way you built that desk was built more like a skateboard ramp than, say, a furniture designer would build it. As long as it works for you and it looks clean and neat and you're happy with it, go for it. And if anything, you end up with a cool little mix up there of a couple different design elements, which I think is kind of neat.
Right. A lot of pieces you don't even have to build yourself either.
Oh no.
You can bring them in
Mhm.
from a different resource. We could have bought a desk. We just really wanted to be able to save money and fit the things in pretty perfectly
Oh yeah.
that we needed in this space.
Yeah, I can imagine that. Harping back to the desk, that cost me $12 to build. It really wasn't much. It's a quarter piece of plywood, the super thin plywood with some 1x4s and even a couple scrap 2x4 legs. So that really it's super cheap, and if you got the time and some basic skills, you can knock it out pretty easily.
And it's also convenient that if you're putting this in a trailer, especially one that you want to pull,
Oh
you
yeah.
need to keep things lighter.
Hmm.
So you don't necessarily need to be dealing with, these super heavy, super heavy duty structures.
Yeah.
So it needs to be stuff that is going to be a little bit lighter, a little bit thinner. And I think it's a really good way to, figure things out
Oh yeah.
and learn how to do them for yourself, especially on such a small scale.
Hmm. I agree.
Right. Do you have any more advice for people who want to renovate an Airstream?
I think you pretty much hit it on the head with research. Definitely look and see what all you need, what all is going to go into it. Some people are more likely to just jump into something as I am, but then there are people like you who need to read about it and think about it and go for things in a sort of manner a little bit more calculated. But again, that's personal preference. But do a little bit of research. Just don't go for it because that's when I mess up a lot of times. So uh, go for it. Have fun with it. If you can spend a little bit more time than we did and really get it perfect, squared away and nice and neat, go for it. If it's a rush job and you got to get in there and you got to get it going, just allow yourself to be able to continue to work on it as once you're in the space, because that definitely helped our Airstream feel more like home than just some sort of basic skeletal things that we were just sort of storing stuff in. So give yourself a little bit of time, make sure you build it to your needs and your desires, and have fun with it.
Mm-hmm. Good. Yeah, I think in some ways we're the best of both worlds, right? Because I do all the research and then you are like the get up and go. And if I didn't have that, I would never get anything done.
And I'd never have anybody telling me to get stuff done.
All right. Thanks, honey.
Yep.
That was our advice for renovating an Airstream. You can always find out more about how we live in an Airstream on my blog, asmalllife.com. Thanks for watching. Bye.